How you doing, folks? Welcome back to the GM's Alcove. Got another episode in my refight of the Battle of Tifernum for you. Episode 9, I believe. We're going to pick up with turn 4. We're going to jump ahead, actually. I'm going to show you the results of the Roman activations, their initial activations by the Prefecta and their tribunes. We're going to start by looking closely at Falco's orders phase. Falco, of course, is the commander of the cavalry, the Roman cavalry, and we're going to take a close look at how cavalry pursuits work and some of the results of his combats that he faced against the Samnite cavalry. So let's jump into this and get into the nitty-gritty and roll some dice. Okay, folks, let's get into this. All right, so here we have a look at Falco's attack, the Romans, going against the light cavalry and heavy cavalry of the Samnites over here. He did launch into them with 3 of his units. Falco is here at the moment. He did involve himself in the combat and modify it with his charisma rating of 1. So he added 1 to the Romans' attack roll to this combat. So you could see how I did my combat. I had these 2 units attacking the heavy cav from here. This was counted as a flank attack with attacker superiority. I used him. Unfortunately, this combat, and Falco did survive, this combat ended in engagement. There was no rout. We could not put the heavy cavalry in rout. They did take 4 cohesion hits, but notice that their TQ is 7. They're quite powerful. So that's what happened over here. And I point this out because I wanted to show you something different that I haven't talked about, and that is cavalry pursuit. Now, over here, this cavalry unit managed to move on the flank. Therefore, he was attacker superior. The combat was fought. This guy took, I think, 8 cohesion hits in total, so he was routed normally. This unit in return only took 2 cohesion hits. Not bad for a flank attack. But cavalry have a special rule here, and it's called cavalry pursuit, which applies to the attacker if he wins the combat. Now, there are some exceptions to when a cavalry pursuit can be done. I think it's 8.61 is the actual rule in talking about cavalry pursuit. But in this case, because the Romans were victorious in this particular combat, they have to make a TQ test. And if they are successful, roll under their TQ, they will not have to pursue. Instead, they will do what is called a break-off. And I'll get into that in a moment. Otherwise, if they fail the roll, they do what is called a pursue, and they will pursue the enemy. So first of all, before we go any further, let's make the roll. All right, so the Roman's TQ is 6. He needs to roll a 6 or less to not end up pursuing. So let's roll this. He needs a 6 or less. He gets a 7. He fails. That means there is going to be a cavalry pursuit. If this unit was actually eliminated, it wouldn't be a break-off. He would simply advance the way he normally would. There would be no break-off or rout. But that's not the case. He was not eliminated. Instead, he routs, and the cavalry pursues. Cavalry pursuit is we rout this unit of Samnite light cavalry the way we normally would. He's going to go 2 hexes. We've got to turn him around, facing his withdrawal edge. Mark him. And then he's going to move his 2 hexes. 1, 2. That's fine. Next, routing unit then takes the same exact path, starting with the hex occupied by the routing unit, until it either ends up in the zone of control of an enemy, or an enemy unit is in the zone of control of it. So first of all, he has to move into this hex. And as soon as he does so, he puts himself in the zone of control of this unit. Well, he puts this unit in his zone of control. His pursuit would halt, and at this point, he gets to attack this unit. So there's a little bit of stuff going on here that'll change some things. Now, these guys already fought, but because of this cavalry pursuit, this is allowed to be resolved again. This is his combat. He gets to attack, in this case, in the flank, this unit. All of a sudden, there's another shock combat. This is a special shock combat, and it's the result of cavalry pursuit. So this will have to be resolved between this unit and this unit. This unit will be attacker superior because he's attacking the flank, and so on and so forth. So this has to be resolved. And one thing to note, from this combat, if this heavy cavalry unit is routed and loses the combat, routes its full distance, not just 2 hexes. Also, this unit does not have to check for cavalry pursuit. It's automatic. You will automatically pursue this unit. It's basically, he's already using cavalry pursuit. So once he gets into contact with this unit and fights out another combat and defeats it, he doesn't have to check for cavalry pursuit a second time. He's already assumed to be doing that, and it continues with this successful combat. Again, that assumes this unit is defeated, forced to rout, for example. So let's resolve this attack real quick and see what results from that. All right, real quick, we're going to use column 8. Attacker is superior for flank attack. There's no other modifiers. It's a straight-up die roll. So let's see what we get under the 8 column. 8. That's convenient. That results in a 2 and a 3. The attacker takes 2 cohesion hits. The defender takes 3, which is doubled because of attacker superiority, to 6. So let's start off by giving this unit 2 cohesion hits. He's already got 2, so that puts him at 4. So he's at 4. He's safe. He's got a TQ of 6. This unit just took 6 more on top of 4. So he's got 10 hits. This unit loses and is going to rout. So this engagement marker, and all these, in fact, are pretty much useless at this point. We'll set them aside. And let's mark that unit. Let's mark this unit, just so we don't forget, like we will. We'll mark him as routed. We'll put it right there. Instead of moving just the 2 hexes for the retreat, instead, this unit is going to move its full route movement, which is based on its movement allowance, of 8. So it's going to move 8 towards its retreat edge. 1, nice and clear. Nothing gets in the way. Now, the pursuer, there's no die roll to determine if he pursues, but he's considered to be pursuing the new defeated enemy, and will have to pursue along that exact path that that router took. So in this case, he's going to go here, and then he's going to go here. And as soon as he comes here, brings an enemy within his zone of control, or enters the zone of control of an enemy, he halts, he stops. And at this point, he's done. There's no further combat, unlike previously when we had to fight here after our pursuit. There's only the original combat and one more combat if we pursue into an enemy, like we did. That's it. There's no more shock combat. This would end it. So he would stop in this hex right here with that facing, and that would conclude it. And on top of that, this Roman unit gets a pursuit finished marker. The pursuit finished him for the turn. He cannot move again. Unlike other units that can move if they're activated again or moved again in a separate orders phase, they can move again, and they usually take cohesion hits for doing so. Not in his case. Because he's marked as finished, he is done. He cannot be moved. He can still use orderly withdrawal and change facing, but that's about it. He cannot move. He's finished. Also take note that if a routing unit runs off, flees off the table, flees off the map, so does the pursuing unit. He would follow him off the table. So you have to, if it happens close to an edge, you got to be careful. Although that said, it is possible to bring cavalry that have pursued the enemy off the battlefield. There is a way to bring them back. The OC can do that if he basically gives up his entire orders phase to regroup cavalry. That single order takes up his entire orders phase, but it does bring those troops back. So there is still hope to troops that have pursued off the battlefield. So there you go. That's an example of how cavalry pursuit works. All right, still in turn 4, of course. And the Roman commanders have all finished except Rullianus and this tribune back here, the one commanding the flanking detachment. The situation has changed dramatically for him. This is after his normal orders phase was complete. He attempted a momentum, and he got it with a roll of a 1. And this is the situation he's starting that orders phase off with. As you can see, all these units were put in route. These were all Legion units, Legion equivalent units, and they've all been put in route. And this unit back here, I think this was the light infantry. Yeah, they were also put in route. So the Romans were totally successful here, putting all their opposition, the flanking detachment that is, in route. And you can see there's a little fiddling here. They have to kind of go towards the enemy edge at this point, and that's where they are currently. So it doesn't look good for the Samnites in this instance. I would do point out that there was no trump attempts. Lots of momentum being used. A little bit, actually. It wasn't a whole lot of momentum that was successful. Romans have a lot of tribunes in Perfecta, so most of them were not able to use momentum, unfortunately. Yeah, so this is the situation, and we're going to see what this tribune, Cassius is his name, we'll see what he does with his extra orders phase here. All right, folks, here we are. Romans have finished, except for Rullianus. I haven't finished him yet. Still on turn 4. A lot happened up here with the flanking detachment. I'll show you that in a second. But next up in the initiative order is Pontius and Statius with initiatives 4. They're located here. Pontius, who's pretty much been in charge of the cavalry arm, although he's not limited to that. And Statius, who's been in a central position here and commanding the right wing of the Samnites. They're next. However, like I mentioned, Rullianus has yet to go. He's in a position where he can trump if he wishes, depending on what the Samnites do. They use momentum successfully. But let's take a look at the Roman flanking detachment and see what they accomplished. As you can see, that's quite a bit. The units that they had put in route are now destroyed. They finished them off. They have taken some losses. By the way, this tribune, I believe this is Cassius. Is that who it is? Who is this? Cassius. He did manage to get momentum twice, so he activated 3 times, 3 order phases he went through, which is really effective for him. These Roman units, they are taking quite a beating. He's at 4 out of 6 that he could take, 3 out of 6 that he can take, and this one back here is at 5. He's close to breaking, unfortunately. So, in this unit back here, what is he at? 1, so he's in pretty good shape. But he's very fragile. He's right on the brink of, time to leave the battle. And the other 2 as well, they're closing in. But you'll notice they have linked up with the 5th Legion. So there you go. That's that. Of course, we have a 5th Legion element here as well, some Hastati. Fantastic effort by the Romans. I have to say, a lot of this had to do with some good luck. In this part of turn 4 for the Romans. Earlier, the Romans didn't have as much luck, and I'll show you that. But they did manage to finish these guys off. The Samnites are in trouble big time. These troops right here, which only have a movement allowance of 5, are not going to be it's not going to be easy for them to pull out of this position. Their flank is in jeopardy at this point. They're about to be hit in flank. And let's take a wider look at what's going on here. That's a little bit better. Put everything in context. Yeah, it's going to be difficult for the Samnites at this point. Now, that said, the withdrawal points are currently, the Samnites are at 85 out of a max of 120. So they're more than halfway to their army withdrawal point, where they give up the field. So that's pretty rough. Romans, on the other hand, can go up to 150 before they rout from the field. They're currently at 44. They're doing good at the moment. You can see so far, the only thing they have not managed to do is bring up their second battle line, the Principe battle line. Just the command was not there, the momentum to bring them up. My leaders, my tribunes, and Perfecta were not in a position to give a line command to these guys and bring them forward, much less the Triarii. But of course, Rullianus has yet to go. I did not accomplish that. So therefore, you see this long line here. These moved markers are all Romans of the 3rd Legion, the Hastati. And that's where they currently are. And these 2 units in particular are very fragile at the moment. They're like at 5 out of a total of 6 TQ. Yeah, very fragile. And the same can be said for the rest of these 3rd Legion units, although they're not as close to their routing point. These guys are pretty stable. Of the 5th Legion, they're holding out, got a nice straight line. They benefited early on, of course, from Rulianus's cheering and stuff when the flanking force arrived. So they're in good shape. Nice solid line. The cavalry, of course, were quite successful. Under Falco, they did manage to put to rout some of the heavy cavalry of the Samnites. So all in all, I think this was a remarkable turn. Even though they didn't have the command to do everything they want, it was remarkable in the sense that the flanking force basically put the screws to the Samnite and now have them in a flanking position. And the cavalry as well, under Falco, over on the left, were quite successful as well. And it's still up in the air, though, on the left flank of the Roman army, what's going to happen there. But anyway, next up is the Samnites. We've got Pontius and we've got Statius, both at Initiative 4. I'm going to pick one to activate first, and my plan is basically to try and save the day. I'm going to use Statius, probably Statius. I could use Pontius for this, but I'm going to advance this line. The red guys, they're all depleted pretty much, but I'm going to throw them forward. I don't have much choice. They're the closest ones I can use. I'm going to bring this part of the battle line forward and engage these weaker Romans of the 3rd Legion as quickly as possible and hopefully get some defeats on the Roman here. That will put us in a good position. Pontius, if anything, is going to try and rectify this situation with the cavalry against the Romans. Not sure what's going to happen here. He has to rally some units of cavalry, unfortunately. His heavy cavalry en route back here. But he has a fresh one here that is in the zone of control of this Roman unit, which, if you remember, was making a pursuit, a cavalry pursuit. So there's going to be some combat here. And I think up here, I'm going to try and pull some units back. I really don't have much choice. The Romans just have us outnumbered. They're going to take our flank, and I think an option might be to remain where I am, but with these exposed units here, I'm guaranteed to be flanked. And these units in the back, these white ones, I want to bring up here to support them and try and make a new line or extend this line if possible. It all depends on momentum use, I think. Because I got to remember, for the Romans, this is it. They're not going to be moving any further until Rulianus takes action. So I've got to do something with Statius to get these guys engaged. And now that I think about it, maybe Statius should be ordering troops from this area. I don't know, unless I trump my own guys. But then Rulianus could try and trump that, and it gets tricky from that point. Keep it simple, right? So we're going to see what happens. I'm going to try and get these guys engaged with these Romans, do as much damage as I can. I'm not sure what I'm going to do against the Roman cavalry. To do some rallying here, maybe defeat them. If Pontius is up to the task, we'll see. This second line of Romans is troublesome. That's why I want to focus on destroying these weakened Hastati of the 3rd Legion first, if at all. And it's going to be up to... we'll see what we do here. I suspect that Rulianus, when he does activate, will either be moving his second line fresh troops forward to fill in here, the left flank of the Romans, and fill it up, because these are very fragile units at the moment. I don't know if he wants to sit there and just do recovers. He could do that too. Or more likely, Rulianus might do something here and push on this flank and try and wipe me out. But remember, these blue units of the 3rd Legion have already moved. Push them any further and they're probably going to break. So they probably won't do anything there. I'm not really worried about them making a move. It's these guys, which have yet to move in this game turn. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Samnites are next. I'm going to show you what happens after I make these critical motions with at least Statius and Pontius. And then we'll see what I'll show you what Rullianus does. And then finally the replies of Herennius and Ignatius of the Samnites. So that's the situation, folks. Really enjoying this battle. It's more exciting than I thought it would be. A lot of things going on. And okay, let's jump into this and see what happens. All right, and the excitement continues. Still in turn 4. I just finished Statius and Pontius. Their moves were completed. I think Statius was more successful in terms of momentum use. As you can see, that entire line up here moved forward and got engaged. Also, there was a little bit going on here with Pontius and the cavalry. Let's take a look at that. You get a little bit of a close-up. Here's the heavy cavalry. Remember, they were pursued into the previous fighting by some Roman cavalry. And that was that. So he decided to fight back. It was a shock no TQ check. And he was supported by some light cavalry from his own side. Unfortunately, they got on the flank of that unit, so it definitely helped. They had overwhelming odds here. They put the enemy en route. He did not pursue. He had a break-off result. That's why he's here. He's currently occupying the hex that the Romans occupied. That routing unit of Romans located all the way down here, because they route their full distance, as opposed to just 2 hexes, because of the cavalry pursuit rule. He did a break-off. Unfortunately, the light cavalry supporting him also routed, and they're currently here with Pontius himself. So that was unfortunate. Now is about the only combat here. There was a little fighting here with these velites. Some infantry moved up and attacked them. Unfortunately, those infantry lost the combat. I think they were medium infantry against the velites. They had already taken some cohesion hits. But the reason why they're not on the board is because I attempted to rally them and I failed. And that was it. I think it was Statius that attempted to rally him, and failure meant that that routed unit was removed. The same happened over here. I think Pontius tried to rally one of his units and failed. So that was really bad. A lot of failed rallies for the Samnites during Pontius and Statius's turn. And of course, to the right, you can see where Statius was hard at work, moving the Samnite right wing forward, the van line. And here they are. You remember, they were pretty depleted to begin with. They did get some success. They put some of the Romans, especially those 2 weaker ones that I showed earlier. I don't know if you remember. They had like 5 out of 6 cohesion left. They could take up to 6. And they were routed. And I believe they're back here currently. So they did have some success. A lot of the units were slower with a movement of 4 because they were medium infantry. They weren't Legion equivalent, which have a movement of 6. Samnites are pretty fast. A little bit faster than the Hastati, I believe. Yeah, they are. So they got as far as where they are now, and that was it. I think Statius failed his momentum after that. I think he got maybe 1 momentum out of that. Rullianus made no trump attempts regardless. And that was it. Rullianus was next, and you can see where he's at. He just made his first initial orders phase and completed it. And what he did is he pulled some of the Principe from the second line, much better troops. You'll notice their TQs are 7s and an 8 in this case. They basically overwhelmed currently these units. They're going to have flank advantage and numerical superiority as well against these 2 weakened Samnite units. So this is pretty much a no-win for the Samnites. I've yet to roll the dice for these 2 combats. There's these 3 going against him with superiority, and these 2 going against him, again, with superiority because of the flank attack. And that was Rullianus's turn. He basically moved, or he gave 5 orders, individual orders. He didn't attempt a line order. Well, it wouldn't be an attempt. He was in position to do it. But I didn't want to do that. So he just moved these guys up. They all easily passed their TQ checks before combat, and we're about to roll the dice for these combats. There's no other combats. However, take notice, up here under this moved counter is a unit right here that is eligible to be given a no check TQ marker. He could fight in combat. He's right here with this Samnite. I chose not to, of course, and you got to pay attention to this. You don't always want to put units in combat right away, especially when you don't have superiority in numbers. I mean, he would literally be the attacker here at 1 to 2 odds. It would favor the defender because of the size ratings. And that's not good. So I decided not to put these guys in combat. They didn't have to. They didn't move. So that was that. So it's just these combats, these two right here to resolve, and that'll be Rulianus's initial orders phase. While we're here, let's roll some dice on camera. First combat we're going to work on is this one over here. Here is the modifiers and the odds and all that. So we're using column 9 for the first combat, and the Romans are superior. Let's roll the d6 and check column 9. There we go. Ooh, that's the best you can get without modifiers. They got a 9 under the column 9, which is a 2-4, plus we're superior, so it's 2 losses to the Romans, 8 losses to the Samnites. So that's pretty much going to seal the fate of these Samnites who took 8. They already have 3. They are definitely going to be routed. So what I do is I normally just eliminate all these informational counters, turn him around, and mark him with a routed marker. Now, I don't route him yet. We're not in the collapse phase. But the important thing here is how many casualties the Romans took. And I believe that was 2. And yeah, there's that combat. So we distributed that. We know who's going to route. That's that. Next combat. In this combat, as you can see, we're going to be looking at the 10 column. And pretty good odds there, size-wise. 3 to 1 attack. Let's roll this. Again, attacker is superior because that flank attack is 0. That's the worst you can get. So I went from the best to the worst. So 0 under the 10. And it's 3 and 2. The attacker suffers 3 losses, defender 2. But because I'm superior, the defender will suffer 4 losses. But it was definitely a brutal, hard fight for the Romans. It's unfortunate. So 3 and 4. And nonetheless, it's still quite devastating. None of these Roman units have taken any hits. There he is. And finally, this unit here, he already has 3. I'm going to just remove this marker. It doesn't mean anything at this point. And we're going to turn him around like so. And I'm going to mark him as routed. And yeah, that's it. So if we go back over here into the collapse phase, we know who's going to route. It's going to be him. We're going to move him 2 back. 1. Yeah, so that's that. None of these guys are within 1 of their TQ, nor in the zone of control of an enemy, so we don't have to make that special roll. The unit has, one of these 2 units has to advance. Its first priority goes to the unit used for superiority, and so on, which would be him. He advances into the hex. He can change his facing. He will do so. 1 vertex there. Now this combat, same thing. This unit will route. No one else routes. It's going to be the same situation. And the advancing unit, again, this unit determines superiority. Will advance into here, and again I'll change my facing. And these units are looking pretty good. Again, these are from the Principe line, so they're as fresh as you can get. And there we go. That's the resolution of that combat. Just as a reminder, I have a little moved marker there in case they move again. But next, momentum. Let's see if the Romans, Rulianus, can get momentum. Now, this is an important roll here. If he gets it, he'll get another orders phase. But there's the option of trumping that successful momentum by the Samnites. Ignatius and Herennius are both available. Next in initiative, they could attempt trumps here, and that could be a powerful tactic at this point. First, let's see if he's successful. Otherwise, it's going to go to Herennius. and he rolls a 7. He needed a 5 or less to get momentum. He failed. So that's that. It's going to go to the Samnites. Rulianus is flipped. Now that, to be honest with you, I've gotten so many successes for momentum, especially for the Romans. I didn't expect that. But nonetheless, I still think the Romans are okay. It's a pretty solid position. They've got the enemy routing. They've got depleted units in front of them. The cavalry is still in existence. They're not gone, so it's all not lost here either. I don't have to worry about my flanks, although maybe a light cavalry could slip in, but not a big worry. Yeah, and I'm in a solid position here. So this is it. It's time for the Samnites to make a move. They got Ignatius and Herennius left, 2 great commanders. We'll see what they can do to bring up this reserve line, their last elements of the main line, and kind of do like I was talking about earlier, bringing this back, solidifying it, and now they've got to worry about this. They pushed forward, but they got destroyed almost. So there's not much left here, and the Romans are committed with their second battle line, their main line. So this is the point of decision in the battle, I think. And by the way, the Samnites are at 103 for their withdrawal points. Their max is 120. So they are literally under 20 points away from withdrawing from the battle. The Romans are at 44 out of 150. So the Romans are definitely winning this battle at this point. I really think it's going to come down to this turn, Ignatius and Herennius, what they can do. So let's see, folks. Let's see what's next. So there we go, folks. That's another episode in the books to my refight of the Battle of Tifernum. It's looking pretty good for the Romans. They got a good solid right. The flanking force is doing their job. And, of course, Falco's cavalry is holding that left wing still. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed. Like, share, comment, give me some feedback. Do you like seeing more refights of battles from SPQR? Let me know. I'm sure to make more. Any questions? Leave them in the comments. As always, folks, stay tuned. You guys hang in there. It's only going to get better. Take care, folks. See you soon.